Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Gates weekly recap. I'm your host, Tim Shirer. I have more than 30 years or 40 years of soap opera experience, reviewing shows, writing about shows. But I got to tell you, it's really good to be back. We've been off for a few months, actually 3 months to the day since we did our last show. We're back though now, and we're going to be here every Friday at 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Eastern time, immediately after the Friday episode of Beyond the Gates. I was off. I had some other things going on. I was involved with a travel baseball team that has now ended. I've decided that at 58 years old, I am done with the travel baseball culture. Let's be honest. The travel baseball culture is possibly more dramatic and full of bullshit, more bullshit than any daytime soap. But let's get to where we are. Let's get to why we're here today. And we're here to talk about Beyond the Gates and the people of Fairmount Crest. What we got is, a lot changed since the April 14th show, which was the last time we were together. Anita is now cancer-free. She's doing her radiation. She had the lump removed. So that's good. The blood plasma scheme storyline, I guess you could say it ended, but it didn't really end. This show loves not completely finishing storylines. Let's be honest. They love that. They never completely resolve something. They always leave something hanging, so while Derek was killed in the blood plasma scheme when it all blew up at one of Joey's warehouses. He died saving Jacob's life. He jumped in front of the bullet that was intended for Jacob. Ashley was, even though she had a relationship with Grace, and she was devastated by Derek's death. When he got to the hospital, he was able to see Ashley one time before he passed on, and he told her he loved her, and that was a good ending, because it would have been terrible if he died and he wasn't able to tell her that. But, like I said, the storyline is still going because they haven't really got the head of the ring yet, which we now know is Joey's sister. So will they eventually finish this storyline? They might, or they may not. This show seems to enjoy leaving you hanging, not telling you how it's going to end. We still have not had a solution to several things on this show. Leslie trying to kill, Nicole's assistant. The second episode of the show. And Leslie's still walking around with no problem. She's free. She's never been caught. She's never been prosecuted. So that's what this show has done, but it also sets up a lot for the future, with stuff not being resolved. So that's a good thing, I think. And but Ashley held it against Grayson when Derek died. Jacob struggled with the fact that his best friend died saving him, and he was still alive. I think that they handled that in a good way, and they let Jacob grieve for his friend, but people told Jacob, look, it wasn't your fault, Derek. Derek went there on his own that day, so. But I kind of miss Derek being on the show. Derek was a good character. He was a good guy. And he died a hero. And if they're ever going to write Derek off, that's what you would expect, something similar to that. So there wasn't a lot more they could do with the character of Derek. I guess they could have made him like a private detective or something. But you knew when he went off contract that his days were numbered on the show. I like the character, he's a good character. But that's how soap operas are. People get killed off, right? Well, they can also come back from the dead too. So we may not have seen the last of Derek, because you know how it goes. Or Derek might have a twin brother, or Derek might have an evil twin cousin. But that's how it goes on soap operas. Whatever you're expecting is probably not going to be what happens. And so we got to move on from Derek. I really think that after that all ended, then they had the political event for Martin at the country club, which was somewhat of a crossover from Young and the Restless. I guess it was a crossover because they had the Young and the Restless characters on, but there was no mention of it on Young and the Restless. And the two shows were not synced up very well. But that was kind of odd. I wasn't real happy with that. But you know what? That's not a big deal. But it did get viewers from Young and the Restless to watch, which is very good, because the more viewers, the longer we'll be able to watch our show if it continues to build an audience. The tornado hit the campaign event. Victor Newman somehow got out of there and was able to get a helicopter, which was crazy because everything was supposedly shut down. But he got out. Jack Abbott and his wife were trapped there, as well as his son Kyle Abbott. Danny, Kyle Abbott was trapped in a closet with Haley. And of course they shared a kiss because Haley loved Bill. Also, the aftermath of the tornado. Danny and Bill are trapped in an elevator, and of course they had sex. This is a soap opera. Of course that was going to happen. And now, that's the big thing here. Danny is guilty about it. Jake was injured. He hurt his leg. He's out there injured, and she's in an elevator having sex with Bill. So she's guilty. She feels guilty about that. And then Martin was injured and had a concussion because he was trapped under some debris. seemed like 2 days before they got to Martin, like nothing was going on. And then all of a sudden, hey, there's somebody's under that debris. So they got him out. They thought he was fine. Then he passed out. Then he took him to the hospital. Anita was injured in it, and she hurt her leg, and it was kind of a nice moment when Leslie helped patch her up. That was good. And then, so, that's, and of course, Ashley and Shanice set up the triage and helped the injured during the tornado, and that was good. Ashley was only there because Naomi went and got her and said, you need to get out of the house. Stop being alone, mourning Derek. You have to go out in the world. And that's what she did. And they went to broke loose when the tornado happened. But Kat and Eva, the most serious of what happened, they were stuck in a stairwell when a steam pipe burst. The steam pipe apparently either sprayed steam or hit Eva. And of course, Kat thought she was faking. And then she realized when Eva started spitting up blood that she was not faking. It was real. And she was bleeding. And so after they rescued them, they brought Eva to the hospital. They took her to Garland, and it was determined that her liver was shot. It was no longer functioning, and that she needed a new one. It couldn't be repaired. So, of course, this is a soap opera, right? They couldn't find a match. So finally, who's the match? Her sister Kat, who hates her guts. Neither of them like each other. Kat gave Eva more reason not to like her than Eva gave reason not to like Kat. Kat was just plain mean to her right from the beginning. So in true soap opera fashion, Kat turned out to be a match. Kat gave her part of her liver, and she lived. But of course, after the surgery, there's complications. And Kat was in a coma. Took her longer to wake up. And during the coma that Kat was in, I guess you could say, she had a dream, and she basically was living the life in the dream that Eva had lived her entire life, being the outcast. Her mom was a mess. And woke up, and she understood what Eva had gone through. And her and Eva talked. They discussed it. They talked about it. And, in today at the end, they talked to each other again. She came to visit Eva at her apartment, and she thanked her for telling Tomas that she needed to go somewhere else for advice and not to come to her for relationship advice. And, they talked very nice, and Kat left. And, I have to admit, it's nice to see them getting along. But the conflict was fun too. Let's be honest. Two women going at it, hating each other on a soap opera. It's great. And Kat and Eva going at it is always good. We still have Leslie hating and being hated by everybody on the show. So there's still that. But I don't know. I don't think Kat and Eva are ever going to get along completely. So I think there'll be more conflict. Tomas proposed to Kat, and after he was turned down, that's when he went to see Eva, and that's when Eva went off on him about, can't just come over here anytime things don't go well with Kat. And but then Kat bought a condo and asked the next day and asked Tomas if he wanted to move in with her. And this is like, okay, one day you're telling him you don't want to marry him, embarrassing him in front of your whole family, and then you go and buy a condo and ask him to move in. Ted and Nicole are both against Tomas. They don't like Tomas. But they're a couple of hypocrites, those two. But of course, that's what it's meant to be. But also this week, the girls from the Articulates came to visit Anita, and they asked her if she'd go on tour with them now that the cancer is gone. And she told them, well, she still had radiation. So she wouldn't be, oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my God. So she wouldn't be able to go on tour, but she did let them know that she would be willing to go into the recording studio, and the three of them, along with Barbara's voice, could record some new songs. And it sounds like they're going to do that. And Devon Winters, I believe he's from Young and the Restless. He was also at the campaign event. They're going to, that's who's going to, record the music for them. So that's going to be good. I think Anita will go on tour with them eventually. She feels better. Why not? I think it'll be good. It's a good storyline, There we go. So if I don't drink something, I'll start coughing. We don't want that. Switching gears, Deanna continues to have visions of her dad, Doug, who was killed. I can't remember when that was. That had to be like last November, maybe. He was killed. His car went off a cliff. Of course, he was killed by Joey and Joey's henchman. I believe Marcel is the one who killed him because Randy didn't do it. Randy was Doug's friend, and he wasn't going to do it. But so Deanna continues to have visions of Doug and is scheming to prove that Joey had Doug murdered. And she's right. He did. But her plan is to act like she has accepted Joey as, having a relationship with her mom. So that is what's going on there. Joey's having no part of it. He knows just what she's doing. So I think, Joey found that letter the other day that Doug wrote saying that in the event of his death, investigate Joey Armstrong because he had something to do with it. There had to be more than one copy of that letter. There's not just one copy of that letter. Joey burned it, but there's got to be another copy out there somewhere. And I think eventually either Vanessa's going to find it or Jenna will find it. And it's going to be interesting to find out what happens to Joey at that point. I don't think they want to write Joey off the show. Joey's been a good character since, I think, day one. I think he was in the first episode, if I'm correct. But, Joey has had Randy befriend Deanna so he can pump her for information. Randy doesn't like it too much, but he's going along with it because Doug's his boss. Or not Doug's his boss. Joey's his boss. And, Joey's had people killed before, so you better should go along with it. Bill, of course, had another health episode at the end of last week into this week. And while he was doing the deposition with that asshole Mike that used to work for Bill, what a horrible guy that guy is. What a dirtbag. That guy, if you look that guy's name up, it'll have shyster next to it because he's truly a shyster. I mean, he got banned from Bill's law firm for bad behavior. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So I'm not sure what I just got banned on TikTok for 10 minutes. Makes no sense. Restricted. I don't understand it. I don't know what I did. All I did is say what this Mike was. You know, that's not bullying. That's telling about the character. I got, I'll tell you this, TikTok. You banned me last week for dangerous driving when I was sitting at this desk. I wasn't even driving. So maybe you ought to fix your AI before you start banning people and restricting people for things that aren't even happening. Let's get back to the show, though. Screw TikTok. Restrict me again. I don't care. Bill had another health episode, as I said, and so all that. He left the hospital before he's supposed to. Madison and Chelsea tried to talk him out of it. Of course, they couldn't. He's Bill. So he left. He went back to work. Then we have that Naomi finally admitted to Jacob that she has the Bronco gene. And the rest of the Duprees. Chelsea's reaction was the most curious to me. Really getting angry about it, that she kept it from them. As we know, those of us who watched the show from the beginning, Chelsea's probably the most laid back of the Duprees, and so I think it was kind of interesting that how angry she got. But she is in anticipation that she does not want to get cancer. She wants to eliminate the risk. She is now considering getting a double mastectomy or even a hysterectomy to get her ovaries removed. So Jacob is behind her, whatever she decides, because they've already decided they don't want to have kids. So that's going to be interesting in the coming months to see where they go with this storyline. They've also started a storyline, not big. They don't talk about it a lot, but it's there. They've also talked about the diabetes storyline. One of the people that works for Nicole, who has been in the forefront of a storyline since the beginning, who is friends with Ashley's mom. Her storyline, she talks about she's been diagnosed with diabetes, and they really have done a good job of that too, talking about letting people know. That thing I love that. I love that they really talk about storylines that matter to real people. You know what I mean? And I think that it's a great thing. these storylines are just you can make a storyline out of things that are important. And I think this is one of those cases. So good. We have the final thing. We have Danny is still feeling very guilty for what happened with Bill in the elevator. She told Pamela this week what happened. So now Pamela knows. I believe she did tell Vanessa at one point too. But Vanessa won't tell anyone. But neither will Pamela. But somebody's going to find out eventually. And, I feel bad for Andre because Andre's been very loyal to her. And it's kind of crappy. So, but that's a soap opera. And, as soon as a marriage is happy, it's not. And we shall see when they find out and who finds out and how Andre finds out. Because I feel bad for Andre. When Haley finds out, that'll just give her an excuse to divorce Bill and get half of his money. That's pretty much it. She'll be happy, actually. Of course, she'll act mad, but she'll be happy, actually. Unless she kills him first. You know what I mean? Looks like next week you can have another episode. So we'll see what happens with that. They're not going to kill Bill off. They might make Haley think they killed Bill off, but they're not going to kill Bill off because Bill is he's too pivotal of a character in this whole thing, in this show. He's a long-term character. He is. He could be a long-term character on this show. And hopefully they'll continue to pay him. And maybe he can do other things if he wants to. But I feel like they have some really good characters on this show. And I feel like Bill Hamilton is one of the best characters on the show. I feel like he's a long-term. Danny and Nicole are obviously, and even though they're older, Anita and Vernon, but I think Bill's a long-term character. I can't see anything, happening to Bill where Bill leaves the show. I think we're going to see Bill on there for a long time. So watch, he'll get killed next week. But I doubt it. But until next Friday at 3:00 Eastern time, we'll recap next week's Beyond the Gates. But maybe, possibly, somewhere between now and then, I'll see you somewhere around Fairmount Crest. Have a good week.